Yeah. Yeah. Coming to you every week from Sydney and Melbourne. It's Full Disclosure. The Jono and Dorje podcast. Jono and Dorje. Full disclosure in the raw. Raw. Jono and Dorje. Full disclosure. No holds barred. No holds barred. Okay, welcome to Full Disclosure episode 7. Raw. That's right. Pretty exciting to be back. Sorry about the delay. Episode 6 will be just hitting the waves just before we release this one. But there's been some rather large developments in our worlds, haven't there, Jono?
Yeah, well, we were in the same state for a little while, and that was super fun, Dorje.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, thanks for having me, mate. I kind of fucked you over a couple of times accidentally, and
These things happen.
felt really bad about it. I left you in an Uber.
It was just tricky. It was just a tricky time because I'm moving house at the same time Jono came up, so it can be a bit tricky trying to coordinate your stuff, unfortunately.
But we got a lot done. We
still
had
did.
a lot of great. Yeah, it was awesome. It was really, really fun.
Good to be back in Sydney, and still bloody hot up here, mate. Still about close to 30 degrees every day.
You're fucking shitting me, are you?
Yes.
It's sorry about the language. It's raining.
Wow.
It's gone to full winter.
There's some wistful looks from Jono's direction
Yeah.
towards Sydney.
I had a great time. And I think objectively, I mean, this kind of screws up the whole premise of the podcast, but objectively, I think if I didn't have all my advantages in Melbourne with family and friends and that kind of thing and MCC membership, maybe Sydney's a better city. So, I mean,
Huge call.
yeah, not conceding yet, but it was a magical weekend surrounded by great mates, cards, magical Labrador retrievers, and basketball at a bar with a DJ set playing behind us and a couple of frosty cold Brooklyns in pints, and it was doesn't get much better than that, my old friend.
I've returned to that place a couple of times since you've gone. It's
you
actually
double timing bastard. Who are you watching basketball with now, mate?
by myself, mate. I was sitting there yesterday. I had guacamole. So I feel guilty about you streaming from their Wi-Fi without buying enough stuff. So I bought guacamole, followed up with buffalo wings, smashed away a pint, and then I've moved on to hitting a large bottle of San Pellegrino as well as I watch, and that managed to draw that out through a whole game. But the problem is at the end the bill was like $55, which is pretty expensive for just watching a game of basketball.
And yeah, you should be doing squats at timeouts because that's a fattening meal.
Oh yeah. You can say, oh yeah. But
So if you get out of the way, I just
on.
watched the Trailblazers today a day late, as I often do, and I'm sorry, mate. That was I thought you were going to get them.
That hurts. But yeah, look, it really hurts because home court advantage no more. That's it, nullified.
I'm really rooting for you guys.
Well, it'd be more nullified if we lose game 2. Then it'll be problems aplenty. Imagine if we go out in straight sets.
Stay positive. I don't think you'll lose. I think the soccer mums will get you over the edge this time. They both underperformed, your 2 stars, so I think they'll come back.
Yes, although the talk from everyone, and I know you get a bit stroppy about this, is that CJ's been underperforming now for about 3 or 4 months, so it's a real concern. He's got this weird mantra book that he's reading. I can't remember the title. It's called The State of Being. He says where he never gets too high or never too low. He just goes for feeling nothing at all times. But it's kind of annoying because he's just jacking up bad shot after bad shot and just looking like it's totally unaffected. And he's not changing his game. He's just jacking up and shooting like 3 from 18 consistently.
It's a bit like you.
What do you mean?
Well, that's just keeping a lid on emotions.
Yeah, but I don't jack up shot after shot. I played yesterday. If anything, I don't jack it up enough.
We can segue because
Go on.
I learnt a lot on this Sydney trip. Dear listeners, another great thing about Sydney, and then unfortunately there was a bye this week, but Dorje has started a basketball team called the Snow Leopards. And I heard about your last game of the season. Dorje came half an hour late for the game, leaving 4 Snow Leopards on 5. Did the opposition have a bench, or did the opposition just have 5 players?
The opposition had a bench as well.
They had a bench. They should have given you one of their players. But then Dorje turned up, and he was in huge trouble with his what was it? His pride of Leopards. I guess he was just playing under pressure. And didn't you score 10 points in 10 minutes?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 threes.
Yes.
2 for 2 from the line.
Yes.
You fucked around and almost got a triple-double by the sounds of things. So, unfortunately, there was a bye this week, but that is another fun reason to go to Sydney. But this is almost a double podcast because is it true you're coming? When do you get to Melbourne?
Down in Melbourne this weekend. Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
When do you fly in, Big Cat?
Friday night. FIFO.
What time?
Friday, out Sunday.
Well, I'll just meet you because I'm going to some comedy. It's the last weekend at the comedy festival.
Just meet you for a lager afterwards.
Yeah, a lager. And maybe we should try and meet up with Okine.
Yes, Matthew Okine, who will be our first guest. We promise you gold. We deliver. We always deliver. And moving on to delivering, we thought it's probably time to deliver a segment. Oh, before we move on, we should just reconfirm today's theme of the podcast, which is what women really want. And we're going to tell you what we think women want consistently throughout the show. So look out for those little morsels, especially you desperate and dateless guys out there who've been looking for the right tangent. The old ghost whisperers, the horse whisperers, the
Robert Redford,
sweet nothing whisperers. The two of us here will talk you through it. So, what do you think women really want, Jono?
Yeah, I think it's a generalization. It's over 50% of the population. Yeah, air, water, shelter. Like I think
actually, what women need and what women want.
What women need. That's what women need. What women want. Women need bread. Dough. They need dough.
The vernacular I was using then was me imagining I was a desperate and dateless guy, you see. So I'm pitching it towards those guys who have no idea, hypothetically, how to interact with the opposite sex. And I find they're often prone to that sort of terminology.
And you've read the game multiple times, so it's, you're an expert in their kind of mindset.
So hold the phone. What's the game? Explain that to our listeners.
The game? Well, you should because you're an expert in it. But
you tell me, buddy.
It was a book written by a Rolling Stone journalist who wrote a fantastic book before it on... he used to ghostwrite rock and roll books, and he wrote The Dirt, which is the seminal tell-all Motley Crue... Seminal... It's a great read. It is a great read. I think probably it's the most read book by young men. It seems like a lot of people that don't read have read it, you know, like with Shantaram and things like that. But it's pretty cool, and because each character, each of the four band members, it's their point of view, and so they all interact and stuff. And Vince Neil's a real motherfucker, and Tommy Lee's obviously a famous guy in himself. It was good, but then he went from that, and it's written from a mistruth really, because he claimed he was he couldn't get his knee in anywhere, and it was hopeless, and so he then sought the help of these what are they called? I don't even know what they call it. Players?
Yeah, let's go with that. Lock that in. Players
or something like that. But it was like a group of people that kind of came up with rules. So it was in answer to the book written in the 60s or 70s for women, rules on dating about, never kiss on the first date. So they had their own rules, and a lot of it's common sense, but a lot of it's entrenched in kind of quite misogynistic ways of preying on insecurity. But it's a really good read because he's a really good writer. But I just think he's accentuated his own inability to pick up. And I like when I read it, it is a good read. But I kept thinking that this is not the right book because it wasn't actually a book of rules. It was a real narrative, because in the end he finds love and he realizes that whole thing is empty. And he ended up with the guitarist from Hole. But yeah, I mean, it's huge now, and women are onto it. They know when someone's running game.
I have been approached, full disclosure, listeners,
to do the audiobook.
I have been approached by quite a successful entrepreneur to coach him in dating.
Really?
Yes, I have, and I said I wouldn't do it.
You should definitely do it.
No, it was a few years ago now, and he's a lovely guy, and he's great. He was a lovely guy. He just, in terms of his confidence levels and talking to the opposite sex, they just weren't there. And I suppose he thought I exuded that quality that he was looking for. But I decided not to proceed in that area because, yeah, similar to what you're saying, I just think when it comes down to it, if we're being really honest with each other, the most meaningful interactions are ones you go into where you genuinely want to connect with another human being. And if you have an approach or a way of interacting which is garnered towards success with the opposite sex, it's treating them like numbers instead of forging a genuine connection which is long-term and meaningful.
It'd be... Well, but if your objective is just to have sex with as many people as possible, I think it would be even more popular now with just how data is the kind of Do you call
algorithms.
it, say data or data? Data.
Data. Well, this American is data.
They say data. Yeah. Well, it's kind of the most valuable.
All those algorithms. What do you call them,
world,
Jono?
yeah.
What do you call them?
Anglo rhythm. Lover, lover, lover. You don't treat me no good no more.
What?
Get it?
What's the link between...
Sonia Data.
Oh, yeah, but we moved on to algorithms and you went back to it. So you should have probably done it while we were still on
Anglo rhythms, but because I'm not actually Anglo, am I? I'm Jewish.
Well,
I have to do it like.
Aren't you
Bob
Anglo?
Dylan or something.
You're Anglo-Jewish, though, aren't you? Yeah, because it's Scottish. You're part Scottish. So.
Oh yeah, fair call. You got me there. But you'd think, with the analytics and all that sort of thing, you could, it would apply to all that sort of stuff.
Oh, big time.
Even more.
Big time.
Yeah.
I mean, my observation of interacting with tech guys in the States when I've been on flights with them is within a very short period of time where I've had one lean over to me and go, it'd be so much better if that air hostess did the routine with no clothes on, am I right? I'm like, what? It's like, come on, wouldn't that be better? And I was like, sure. And he goes, I mean, she's a solid 10. Or maybe like a 7. She's a 7. Or is she an 8?
He goes from a 10 to a 7. Yeah. But what's his agenda?
Well, they're just.
Why
I think they're trying to bro down. They're trying to bro down for starters, but they're often those guys that weren't the jocks, so they weren't getting any girls, and now they've got lots of money, and they still don't really know how to speak to the opposite sex, but they know they lust after them, and then so the way they try and bro down, to me, it's very much like they're like jocks, the tech guys.
The number thing's terrible.
Yeah,
I mean, what's?
But it's not surprising.
That's surely objective.
It's not surprising. But exactly what you said before about algorithms and math, and data or data, depending on which way you go, that's the area they live in.
So that with the data stuff, one of his big things is it's a numbers game. So what they do is because they coach these people. I'm sure a lot of people know about it. They one of the first. It's like pledging. Like they get all these nerds, and they obviously help you with your appearance, but then they also have you peacocking. So they get you to maybe accentuate one strange thing, like, I don't know, dress up as a pirate or something like that, or do a magic trick or something like that.
Sounds like this is pointed.
Sorry. But then they get you to go to the mall and try and get 50 girls' numbers, and it just gets you to become less self-conscious and not care and just see it as reps.
Yeah, I personally think one of the greatest releases, if you will, and I'm aware of the sexual connotations with that terminology, in terms of getting numbers and interacting with the opposite sex, is dealing with rejection. And that's a great thing about actors, and help prime a lot of us, is that you get used to getting rejected all the time and not taking it personally and feeling like you're going to throw yourself off a cliff. And you often see guys, when they go out and about, move on to a target, if you will, or someone they fancy or think they're very attracted to, and then they get knocked back and they just dive into a well of despair, and almost like they're Tchaikovsky about to throw themselves into a river. And you've just got to, I think, move past that and put on a happy face.
Well, you don't have to, because maybe you're just happy not having sex with heaps and heaps of people.
Sure, but if you really...
But if that's what you want to do.
Well, if you want to also... The thing is, you might be so hangdog about this person that when it turns out, if you really interact with them long term, you'd find out wasn't that great a person, that you might miss this amazing other person who's right in front of your very eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You're closing the door to opportunities. And I'm not saying necessarily opportunities about getting your leg over, but maybe forming a meaningful connection with someone that we would never have realized is a wonderful, wonderful candidate for a life partner.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thanks. This is what this episode's about, people. And we have been talking about dudes most of the time in relation to the way they perceive women, but I suppose it's all about talking about what you know. But I think we have been in the eyes, ears, and minds of women before. Am I not correct, Jono?
Oh, I think you're completely right. What are you talking about?
Jono and Dorje, full disclosure in the raw. Well, I've dressed in drag. Have you seen me in drag before?
Oh, yeah. I played Cleopatra in a production of Antony and Cleopatra.
At high school?
No, it was at uni. But I was playing opposite a very butch Kiwi lesbian as Antony, a redheaded Kiwi. And it was really funny when she goes, "Oh, from these Egyptian fetters, I am broken." She couldn't say feta. Well, she could, but she said fetters. I think it was a pretty dreary production, and I was quite popular back then, and I made all my friends come along. And I don't think they've ever told me to my face how bad it was, but I know now.
Were you clean shaven through it all?
Oh yeah,
Can't be beaten for
absolutely.
Cleopatra.
I shaved my legs.
Did you wear eyeliner?
Yeah, they did the full bit, mate. Yeah, I didn't wear a wig, but I had long hair.
Wow.
I'll try and get some photos. Yeah, it's
Be
good. And
fantastic.
obviously, yeah, fantastic. It's a good acting exercise. I really got into it. I was crying all the way through.
Wow.
Yeah, I was
like
really-
like a
feeling
girl.
it. Yeah,
'Cause that's what women do. When you're playing a
That's what-
female, you have to cry, ask, "What do I do now?" Sob, make use of your cleavage. Generally, be a victim.
what my partner would like
Yes.
is for me to show more emotion. She'd really like that.
Vulnerability.
I think I'm pretty vulnerable just by, I'm just
Yeah, you're a
pretty
real
little
pussy.
guy.
Aren't you?
But I don't cry in front of her, and she'd like that. Sometimes she
you don't
pokes
cry?
me with needles and stuff just to see if I'll cry, but I don't.
What did she do to make you cry?
Pokes me with needles, like little needles.
Georgie grabs me by the balls, like really hard. The other day I
We're
was
not talking
driving.
about
and
what
she-
Georgie likes. We're talking about what women like. Why did she do that?
just because she wanted to see. Yeah, I guess she wanted to see if it hurt. Wanted to see me in pain. That's more of a her thing. She likes.
Yeah, okay.
So-
Yeah, because she likes horror movies. I was pretty freaked out by how she wasn't scared of that horror movie that was so scary.
Yeah,
One with the haunted cupboard.
she's watched a lot of horror movies.
Yeah, and she watches them with just a kind of just confused. She just wants to know how they work.
Yep.
She doesn't find them scary.
No, because when you've seen enough, it's just like any genre. When you've seen enough, you know the tropes, you know the rules, and you're just looking out for the triggers and the points and seeing how it goes about it. Because it is trying to formulate a sensoric response, which is what men do when we interact with women behind closed doors. And can I tell you, I've been relatively unsuccessful numerous times.
What are you talking about? Sex?
Yes, I was talking about sex. What did you think I was talking about?
I don't know. I didn't know. I don't know. Yeah.
It's important to know the erogenous zones. Do you want to talk us through that, Jono?
The nipples?
Yes.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Belly button?
No, that's not an erogenous.
How do you know? How do you know?
'Cause it's
Some
not-
women
it's
love
not-
a good
No
lip
one.
cleaning.
Do you know anyone that likes having their belly button played with?
Just a good Just a good clean. Just get all that lint out.
Sure, but it's not an erogenous zone, in my opinion.
No. The bum hole?
No,
The perineum?
I don't think so.
A little bit of skin between.
You like to go straight for that? Go straight for the perineum. What are you
Like
doing?
Perineum, me.
There's a guy.
They call me the Prince of the Perineum. No holds barred. So the erogenous zones. Come on, mate. Talk me through them. Okay, the armpits.
Yes. No.
Yes.
No, that's not an erogenous zone. No. Earlobes.
Hey, hang on. Hey, let me do it.
Well, you're terrible at the moment.
The neck.
What do you say?
The neck.
Yes, correct.
Thank you. Ding. The toes.
Not that I'm aware of.
Eyelashes.
No, I don't think so. Not eyeball
else?
either. No, look.
Vagina. It sounds like vagina.
I've got a special trick. It's called kissing her vagina. I've heard it's an erogenous zone.
And neck. What? Anything else?
No,
Or tongue?
I think earlobes and neck are generally really solid go-tos. I think if you really hit that area up in the right way, you're
up.
very rarely going to be told to exit stage left.
Okay. But you can't do it too fast. You can't like as you're giving her a corsage for the dance, just at the door. You've just shaken Dad's hand, and then you just start kissing her on the neck and the earlobes.
No,
Right?
you can't do
Just
that.
for our 14-year-olds out there that.
Well, okay. First, I don't know why we're concentrating on sex so much here. Anyway, this is in terms of what women want.
I wonder why. I don't think I started this.
I'm just saying. I don't think that's. This is just
Women-
again when we're talking about what women want. I think probably sex is not really. It doesn't seem to be a lot of the time extremely high or as high on their to-do list, and I mean to do as men. Jono once had a theory. Jono, what was the theory about the guys who just want to get there and then run away or something? What did you have a theory on?
Well, no, I think a lot. I had therapy for this, but for a while in my early 20s, when I'd have sex, I would then just want to leave. I was like a wombat that eats roots and leaves.
Wow, that's terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible. As if you haven't had that as well.
No,
It made me feel terrible. You didn't
Actually,
have that?
if anything, I just sit there sobbing softly in a spoon-set position afterwards for sometimes days.
I'd also get attached. I'd also scare them off. I'd get, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I used to do that. We should move on to our segments because it's
You're gonna
segment
move to
time.
segments? Can I quickly ask, have you checked in on Tony?
Yes, he's in the house.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's in the house.
How's that going? Because your housemate's not a fan.
No, he's not.
And how did it work? How quickly did you find him, Tony Parker? Tony Parker at the old house in Glebe was there.
Do you really think people actually are as interested in Tony Parker
3
as
weeks? Well, maybe they like that we share a cat, and that I, that the guilt that I feel, and makes us both seem like a
I'll
good
give
person.
I'll give you a quick update, okay, just to
Tony
satisfy
Parker,
you.
yeah.
I think I've got a sneaking suspicion it's you more than anyone else that it's listening, but I'll give you a very quick update. I went to the vet. I picked up a cat box to move him in. Andre texted me and said, I'm leaving on the weekend, so it'd be good to try and move him in. This is on Thursday last week. I took the box to the house.
So it was because Andre texted you.
As I said, this is a quick update. So I went to the house, opened the gate. There he was. I got him, tried to put him in the box, and he lost his shit. I think he pissed on me slightly. He screamed. He bit at me. I let him go, and he was not going in that. It looks like a death trap, the cat box that I got from the veterinary clinic.
It's the first time he's seen you in 3 weeks, and now you're trying to put him in a box.
So then I had to put the box back in the car. I got some food out again. He gingerly came over. I picked him up. He didn't move too much when I just picked him up alone. It was the box that freaked him out. Took him to the car and drove away, and with him in the car. He was freaking out, but then he sat on my lap for about half the journey, and he was fine once he was in my lap. We got him to the house, put him straight in the sauna, because the veterinary advice was to give him in one room for as long as possible. Put in the sauna, and he just stood under the bottom level of the sauna. I've got a sauna in my house, people. Under the bottom level of the sauna, and he stayed in that area for about 2 days without moving. I fed him. I got a litter box in there, and he shat and pissed in there a little bit. And now, for the last 2 days, he started migrating and moving actually up and down the stairs and around the house. So he seems to have acclimatized relatively quickly.
He's just an absolute gem of a cat. Oh, that's great news. And did he sleep on your bed? Does he know how to get to your room?
Marley, my sister's up in Sydney this week, and she slept in my bed last night. I slept at my partner's house, and he was in bed with Marley. So he's already made his way up to the top level. So he seems to be making it work.
The danger's when he's allowed outside, what he does.
I think it'll be okay. We've had windows open that he could get out of, and he hasn't even tried.
Oh, it's great news. All right.
He's surprisingly fine, which I always maintained he would be.
That's awesome.
Jono and Dorje. Full disclosure. No holds barred. No holds
All right, let's move on to a segment. Now we've put Jono's fears to rest. I think it's probably time for something like Belligerent Burns.
If you want to talk in a movie,
this is taking too long. This is taking too long.
No! This is a terrible manners. Terrible
That's not
manners.
funny.
That's not
funny.
them badly.
Anymore. It's Belligerent Burns with It's an Outrage.
Okay, Belligerent Burns. This week, I've been watching a lot of basketball, and I love it. And I also love all the stuff in basketball that goes on the sides, like the kiss cam, all that sort of thing. But I've noticed that whenever young white kids, probably the age between 10 and 15, get on the camera, they just do this new stupid dance. They used to do dabbing. That was the thing that they stole off a quarterback in the NFL. And now they're doing this thing called the rustle or the floss, where they have a deadpan face and they do their arms go quickly from their front to their bum and back and back and back. And it's whitewashing and youth culture at its worst. And it just pisses me off. That's it, Dorje.
What whitewashing? How's it whitewashing?
I knew you were going to call me out on that. Well, I don't actually. Well, the dabbing was a cultural appropriation, taking like quite a cool thing that black athletes were doing it, and because it's easy, all these little white kids were doing it. Whereas this is a bit more confusing because it is a white kid called Russell, who's from where's he from? He's from somewhere in the South, and he's become this famous guy. He's known as the backpack kid, and he wears a backpack and does this dance, and everyone's just copying him now. And it's just kind of, I don't know, it's just so vacuous and just so like memey, and it's like the selfie kid. Do you remember the selfie kid? Or Jake Paul or any of those kind of guys, like these YouTubers. But I did a bit of research on the backpack kid. Yeah, like, so because he got so many likes, Katie Fisher got him onto SNL with her, and he did the dance, so that upped his likes. But then she did a little Insta post of her trying the dance, and then he wrote, hashtag when your mum tries to dance. So he dissed her and he was riding high. But then, this is what I love about the internet, or just how weird the world is. Then they found out that he shot a goat in the eye with a air rifle and blinded a goat. And so he did like a little apology, said the goat's fine, and then had to do a proper apology, and he's mud now. So it was like his Glenn McGrath moment.
Yeah, it's good. So you like the dab, but you don't like this.
I don't like the dab. I don't like it when all the kids are doing the dab. I think it looks cool when Cam Newton, the quarterback, does it.
Yeah.
But I don't like anything when everyone just starts doing it.
You like an individual type scenario. But you know that the nature of adolescence and childhood is that one wants to conform and be the same, accepted.
They just look idiotic. They look absolutely idiotic. They look worse with the dab. Everyone knows what the dab is, don't they?
Yeah, I think most people
do. But this is really crazy flossing. Google it.
No, I'm on top of it. This is one thing I did point out to you when you said you wanted to talk about this, was the fact that Backpack Kid has been around now for approximately 3.5 to 4 years. So it's not exactly a new sensation.
Well, it is for me, mate. It is for me, and it's infuriated me. It fascinated and infuriated me, so I had to talk about it.
The one thing worth thinking about is news is about being what's fresh, and it particularly comes to memes.
I didn't say it was news. It was news to me.
But when it comes to memes and it comes to fashion, if you're talking about stuff which is that old, you're way out of touch. Doesn't it bother you might be out of touch?
I think I am out of touch. I'm living in Melbourne with 2 cats. I'm not.
I've got. So are you?
I'm not at the coalface, mate. Like
I'll
you.
segue into something a bit more current and now to show you what I'm talking about.
Look, I'll be on the coalface. I'll talk about the comedy festival in a second.
That's okay.
There's
are you familiar with the yodeling kid right now?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Educate me.
So
fuckface.
There's an amazing internet viral. There's a viral phenomenon, and it's the yodeling kid.
Yep.
And it's this little kid in Illinois, in bumfuck Illinois, and he's got a tiny town of 400 people and a Walmart. That's all they've got in the town. And he's gone.
Sounds like the beginning of a joke. This sounds like the beginning.
It's incredible. It's actually incredible what's happened.
Yeah.
And this kid's into Hank Williams, and in particular, a 1949 classic of Hank Williams called "Lovesick Blues." And he goes,
"Sure, it's not Forrest Gump."
No, and this kid's like 8, 9 years old, and he's been performing these songs of his for ages in the town, and he only performs at the Walmart because it's the only shop in town. Anyway, someone's recorded it, whacked it online, and it's gone humongous. It's gone like 2.5, 3 million hits overnight, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where he's flown out to Ellen. Ellen gives him a check for $15,000, said he's performing at this huge country music festival. Walmart's going to throw him its own concert.
Such youth culture. That's what I mean about whitewashing. Like, they just like kids. Maybe it's because we're getting older and it's not going to happen for us that way. It's just annoying that they just love kids.
Well, what's interesting about this kid is he's kind of like a throwback to Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn. Even when he's on the show, he talks about, I'm just a country boy. And he talks about how he's like, sometimes you're baling hay and you just sit back and you've got some corn in your mouth and you just like, you put your hat down over your face. And he's like a little 8-year-old, right? And then he gets up and sings these songs which involve yodeling, and people are just frothing. It is, I think, a capturing of it. It's so innocent and it's diversionary against what's going on in America right now,
but all the Trump supporters would like it too. Because
that's true. That's true. It goes both ways. But this kid is pretty fantastic, and it's gone huge. It's got so huge now that baseballers are coming out to remixes of the yodeling song in the Major League Baseball. That's how big he's gone. And Hank Williams, this song "Lovesick Blues" is now charting massively on Spotify.
His one or the original?
The original from 1949, just because of this kid.
Great singer, Hank Williams.
Yeah, so that is one that is completely hot off the press. I don't know how long it'll last, but the Backpack Kid's still going strong, as you pointed out. People like you are realizing about him 4 years later. So maybe the same thing will happen with the Walmart
SNL
boy.
thing happened recently. It happened in the last 6 months.
Year and a half, 2 years ago. So early 2017 was when the SNL thing happened. But in regards to the yodeling kid, what was a bit stingy, I thought, about Ellen and Walmart is Walmart have got so much free publicity out of this, and they've given him, towards his college education, a massive check of $15,000. $15,000? $15,000?
Well, you can get more money.
$15,000? I mean, do you know what you can do with $15,000 in an American college education? That can buy you a backpack. It can buy you maybe a sandwich. It's not going to get you through more than barely a semester.
Well, here he goes. Come on, mate. Get going. You're getting there.
The price of education over there, and this little kid's given Walmart, I'd say, close to $1 million worth of free advertising, and they're going to give him $15,000.
Well, I guess there's not many good entertainment agents in
fuck you, Walmart.
Illinois.
Fuck you, Walmart. Fuck you.
Fuck you, Wallmart.
Anyway,
Well, I'll have to check him out because I do like that sort of
I
stuff.
think you'll love it. But
Ellen's obsessed with little cute kids.
You can trust me
interview
for
them well.
the hot off the press stuff.
Yeah, I can. You're good at that.
Well,
You were good at Benjamin Franklin's Killing This Game.
Yeah, that was
When you get onto something,
That
you
was
get
a cool
onto it.
Jewish guy. Actually, speaking of cool Jewish guys,
Yeah.
I can give you a movie review. Would you like my first movie review?
I would, but I'm going to be quite critical because you've been slamming mine.
Go for it.
so
Go. No, that's it.
Do your best.
We're coming up with Dorje Swallow's first and possibly only movie review. All right, so last night I saw the original Postman Always Rings Twice with Georgina Dalton, my partner in crime. We're looking for something interesting but old school to watch, and I'm a big film noir fan. I've seen the remake starring, of course, Jack Nicholson and Jessica Lange, which I was a firm believer in. Some really sizzling hot sex scenes involving dough and a big fat Italian man who they take out, spoiler alert. But this is the original, starring Lana Turner and, of course, John Garfield. Now, John Garfield is a fantastic actor. He was a precursor to Marlon Brando, to James Dean. He was very sort of Methodist, New York-based Jewish actor. What was very clear to all of us straight away is that Lana Turner was acting him off the screen and anyone else who dared to step on it. She was absolutely lightning. She was fire in this film. She was discovered at 16, for the record, just having a milkshake in LA by some creepy old producer guy who then financed her career. Got her to dye her hair blonde. She became the Sweater Girl, famously. That was her breakout role. She was on screen for 5 seconds, but she swept the nation as the Sweater Girl. I'm sure you can figure out what was special about the sweater. Let's just say it wasn't the knitwork pattern. Anyway, so she became huge. She's fantastic in this film. It's a typical film noir, and I don't want to give too much away, but what I will say is it definitely obeys the tropes in terms of the female dies. The female never gets away with it, and in this film, yet again, it happens again. Very disappointing. But in terms of Garfield, I think he brings it. He's incredibly creepy. When you talk about creepy old man in relation to yours truly, I think Garfield takes it to another level. I think it's amazing how much they got away with.
So he's not trying to be a male lead. He's actually being a baddie, is he? He's the postman.
No, there's no postman. It's just that's the monologue at the end.
What? There's no postman?
No.
I hate that.
That's actually a great monologue at the end of it. So it's a 1946 film. What I will say about this film is it went on a little bit too long.
Like this review.
The acting is very dated, and in terms of film noirs, I think it's just fantastic to look at this in relation to the differences between this and the 81 remake. It goes on much longer, the 46, and makes a bit more sense, I think, in a lot of ways. The 81 sort of cuts about 20 minutes off it, but it probably needs the snip. But overall, I think it stands up pretty well. But the creepiness from Garfield, and it's interesting you asked me about that, Jono, because what I do love about film noirs is it has that idea, the blurring of lines, the morally ambiguous lines of the protagonist, which was the anti-hero type thing that Orson Welles was exploring as well shortly afterwards. And that's the thing I love about the film noir idea. It's coming out something like Breaking Bad, the idea of this fatally flawed hero, and often the love interest who's also flawed. And I guess the pain they bring about everything around them, and then the judgment which they have to face, the comeuppance, which inevitably seems to occur, but sometimes doesn't. And that's one thing that annoys me often in film noir, is the female cops it often and the guy doesn't. And that definitely peeves me. What I did like about this one, spoiler alert, is that they both cop it in the end. But I think a solid film, maybe a little long. Out of 5, I'll give it 3. But well worth a look, especially if you're a fan of the remake, which I thought was a bit
especially
of a
if you want to see the sweaty girl doing some of her best work.
Oh, Lana Turner. I was fascinated by her. I spent a good hour after the film reading up about her and Garfield and their lives. Garfield got done in McCarthyism quite heavily. He refused to name names. He said he was a Democrat, cool. But he wasn't a communist. But from the stress alone, his name was smeared. He didn't get any more work on screen after he got called up for McCarthyism. And he died at 39, 6 months to 9 months after. And about 5 other guys that were named also died in that period of time shortly
afterwards.
Died
from stress, they reckon.
It was stress, very, very stressful, awful time to be turned against each other. Lana Turner, in terms of pain, married 8 times. 2 people she married twice, never lasted more than 2.5 years. And then famously, one of her partners was a gangster who was beating her quite regularly, and her 14-year-old daughter stabbed him to death in protecting Lana Turner. And what they said fascinatingly about Lana Turner is that her off-screen persona and her on-screen persona definitely bled into each other to a tremendously large extent. And she was one of the first, they think, sort of actors where they almost helped each other. The huge drama she had off-screen, the numerous partners, the scandals, the problems. When she's playing things like femme fatales, you can see straight away how that could have fed into each other. The life being stranger than fiction and vice versa. scenario definitely seemed to apply to her, and therefore, the persona, the on and off screen persona, was very blurred and quite fascinating.
Gun to your head, which is quite a apt metaphor for film noir. What would you say your favourite film noirs are?
Double Indemnity, I really liked.
Hard to say though. Double indemnity. Double indemnity. That's
Double Indemnity.
Double indemnity.
LA Confidential, I thought was pretty fab. Chinatown is very good.
Yeah, better than those two.
Whoa, I don't know about that.
Better than. Well, I actually haven't seen Double Indemnity. I think it's better than LA Confidential. It's considered the perfect screenplay.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, Robert Towns.
But
it is a bit long, but I think it's phenomenal.
And then there's the blurring. I do like
Touch of Evil.
Yeah, Touch of Evil. I thought Touch of Evil was pretty good.
Amazing opening shot. This is getting a bit kind of nerdy.
Body Heat.
Body Heat.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty damn good.
It came up recently. I'm going to order that. Who's in Body Heat?
Kathleen Turner and William Hurt from memory.
Yeah, I like William Hurt.
Yeah, he's good. Although I saw him on stage in that STC play, Long Day's Journey into Night.
He's had some big character.
He was terrible.
Things against him.
He was terrible.
Uh-huh.
He was muttering all his lines under his breath. You couldn't hear a single thing he was saying.
But that's why he's great on screen.
That's why it's fantastic on screen.
The Accidental Tourist? He was good in that.
Very good.
He won an Oscar. When we were talking about playing different ethnicities for Oscars. He was one of the guys. I think he played.
Really?
I think, an Asian guy. What was it? Madam Butterfly? Was it Madam Butterfly? It was one of those.
Oh, that's Tu Wong Fu. Yeah, he won it for Tu Wong Fu. That's right. He was a drag queen Asian leper. Very transformative.
Really good.
Thanks for the memories, Tu Wong Fu. Yeah, he was brilliant.
Uh-huh. Is that a joke?
Yes. He didn't play an Asian leper.
I don't know if it was a leper, but I think he played an Asian drag queen. I think that's true.
Aging or Asian?
Asian. Look it up.
You look it up. Go fuck yourself. Okay, so
This has been a combative. It's because we had such a nice time in Sydney. I think it's we've eaten.
Fuck you.
Go fuck yourself.
Don't tell me what sort of time we had. I decide what time I had.
It's full disclosure. The Jono and Dorje podcast.
Okay, we have to move on. We're running out of time. So,
well, just quickly say, just comedy people out there, the Barry Awards have been the nominations have come out.
Yes,
and it's Leno and Woodley.
Yes,
to stalwarts. Celia Pakwala.
Yes,
I can't say that name right. Natalie Palamides.
Silly Pakwal. She's related to Manny.
I think so. Pakwala.
Okay.
Natalie Palamides, and she did Laid, the one that I reviewed last time about the girl that lays eggs.
Oh, the egg.
She's
one.
Actually. Yeah, and I've told everyone about it, but unfortunately not fortunately for her, she's gone back to LA because she got a big TV gig. So That's good news. Anne Edmonds, who I just booked a ticket for her alter ego, Helen Badu. I find her hilarious. She's very, very funny. Alex Edelman, Tim Key, Sam Campbell, and Rose Matafeo, who I'm actually seeing Friday night. So, I've got to see a few of the Barry Award nominees.
Who'd you pick?
Who's my pick? Palamides, absolutely. Laid. It blew me away. I saw it.
That's who you want to hook up with most? That's your pick? That's who you'd want to sleep with if you could have to sleep with one of them?
No, idiot. No. I'm very happy.
It's called Laid, right?
Laid because she lays eggs. I guess it's a play on both.
It's obviously a play on both.
Well, because I've seen it. She
lays eggs. You fucking idiot. It's obviously. What else would it be but play on?
Laying eggs.
No, you're right. No, it's
lays eggs.
It might not be a play. So Palamides gets the Guernsey for most likely winner of the Barry Award. You heard it here first. Lay your punts on. 10% kickback to Jono if you do come good. But
Dorje,
big tip here.
I did a tiny little bit of comedy myself because our friend Zoe Broughton had her first ever comedy festival show.
Yes,
and she because she's a lawyer, a barrister, she sold out straight away because The Age did a 2-page spread on her like weeks before, so it was sold out before the show was written, and she did really well, mate. And it was a pleasure to bring her on stage. Her only brief to me was that I had to wear a tuxedo and that I had to be unfunny for 2 minutes, and then she dragged me off the stage. And so that was what we did. And I grew a moustache for it because I thought that was, maybe it would help make me a little bit funny.
Good with the tux too.
Yeah, with the tux, yeah. And Bill Shorten came on the last night, and I got to mention him I got to bring him into it too.
Nice.
And he shook my hand afterwards.
Did you make a height gag?
Do you know what? He's taller in person. He's taller, better looking, and more charismatic in person. And he's got soft hands.
That's always a wonderful quality to have.
Soft hands. Not a soft handshake, but just soft hands. And I reckon it's like the Blarney Stone. I reckon it's because he shakes so many hands. They've just been worn into this silk. It was a very... I definitely will vote for him now.
You heard it here first, folks. Bill Shorten has soft hands. So
this is edgy stuff.
No matter what they say, what election promises they make, no matter what they deliver, no matter what scandals come to the fore, you can count on Bill because he's got soft hands. According to Jono Burns, Jono's rationale for the vote is the fact that he has soft hands.
Well, I'm sure Malcolm Turnbull has soft hands.
Does that mean they'd both be pretty good in the slips cord?
Oh, that's a good. I don't know. Maybe it means they've never worked a day in their life.
Does it mean they'd be handy centre half forwards? Stuart Lowe had notoriously big and soft hands.
But is it soft? I think
you catch better with soft hands.
Do you?
Yeah, if you have hard hands, you don't catch well.
Yeah, if they're just like soldering irons, they just sort of clang.
You certainly don't catch the women, going back to our premise of this week's episode. And Bill Shorten is...
The premise is not how to catch the women, it's what women want.
Yeah, but you catch them by giving them what they want, isn't that the premise? But speaking of catching women, apparently Bill Shorten was quite the lad about town back in the day, is that correct?
Well, mate, let's not go there. We'll get our legal team onto that. I've no idea. I can neither confirm nor deny any of that.
Would you imagine, based on the way his hands felt, that he'd be good at touching people?
Touching people?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he was good at touching my hands. Yeah, soft, nice hands.
What's it called? What happens before you have sex? Would you think he'd be good at that?
Was that a test or you forgot?
Do you think he'd be good at that?
Or in your case, $100 ticket to something.
What does that mean? You're saying that I buy tickets?
In your case, 3 hours of talking them into submission.
So wait. Your premise for me and the opposite sex is buy them expensive tickets and then talk them into submission.
You once bought a girl a ticket to a music festival, and as soon as she walked into the music festival, she just walked off, and she didn't even. She's
still with the guy she walked off with. It's kind of annoying.
Oh, that's loyalty at least. I was furious.
Yeah, I was pretty upset.
No, you weren't. That's what's impressive about you with your. I'll just pump you up for a second here, Big Cat, because I've been giving you a little bit of shit. You obviously were a ladies' man back in the day before you hung up the soft hands, and you've got a lovely partner, Georgie. But I knew you at quite a few stages in your life, and you definitely, your game was the least offensive game, because it was always very playful. You always used a lot of humor, a lot of self-deprecation. You obviously a lot of $100 meals, and like some of the other people that I met used more of the kind of negative. I guess if it's an art, they use the dark arts. They were the Darth Vader to your Yoda, or what's the other one? Obi-Wan. You basically just made them laugh, and also you never took anything personally. So like the amount of people that you were interacting with, some of them of course kind of were taking the piss, and that's what I really noticed, is that you just shrugged it off, and often they would come back later. They'd come back another time because you didn't. So they said, but my problem is if I was trying to get together with someone and then they were rude to me, I would just get belligerent, and then they would just write me off forever. Whereas you would just shrug and go about your work. Whereas I kind of took it personally, which is really silly.
Yeah, you don't want it? Well, fuck you then.
That's the worst. Those guys, that must be terrible.
They're terrible.
Yeah. Hey, babe. Hey, babe, how about it? And like, oh, go away. Well, fuck you fucking lesbian.
It's so
nice to meet you too, Mr. McGrath.
So bad. Guys, don't do that.
It's a real thing.
Guys, don't do that.
Don't do that. But no, but even if they say, like, not even I'm not interested, I'm like, sorry, my boyfriend's here. Like, oh, you fucking lesbian.
It's terrible. Actually, this is a funny one. Georgie was at a wonderful establishment in the middle of the city recently, owned by Justin Hems. I won't name the venue. And she's dancing away.
Why won't you name the venue?
It's a Maryvale establishment in the middle of the city. I'm sure people can put it together. Anyway, she's dancing away, and this guy comes up behind and just puts his arms around her and starts dancing behind her. And she looks around and he goes, "What?" And she says, "I've got a boyfriend." And his reply was, "You going to tell him?" She's like, "No." And then he kept dancing with her and grinding her even more. And she was confused because she said, I've got a boyfriend. But when he said, are you going to tell him? I think he meant, are you going to tell him what we get up to tonight? And what she thought he meant was literally, are you going to tell him that I just put my arms around you? And she said no. So the wires got crossed. I mean, there's a high probability he had a girlfriend as well. And he's like, are you going to tell what happens? I'm not going to tell. But, you can see how that can be misinterpreted.
Then what happened?
They had sex. And they had sex, and she's actually told me that she's leaving me for it. He's making a lot of money, and it's just a better option. I don't blame her. It's completely understandable. If a guy used that move on me, I'd be pretty into it, I can tell you that. The old sidle up behind, grind in the rear section. I think we should finish off with our full disclosure for the week. I've had great success with this story of late. It's really been rocketing up the charts. I've had some people tell me that I tell the best stories based upon this particular story.
You've really built it up, mate. But good luck. Okay, go.
Okay. So we went, Jono and I and a few other friends who will remain nameless, went to a certain music festival.
We can say what it was.
It was called The Secret Garden.
Yes.
And
we'd had a great time there before. We'd been to two before, hadn't we?
Two before. Never has there been a more aptly named festival, you will see from this story, because there was a bit of a secret garden involved.
And at the first one, we dressed up as it's the picture. You were the Scarecrow, and I was Dorothy, and we had
that is from that festival.
And we had the best time. We just had the best ever time.
That wasn't the first one though.
That was the first one. Oh no, the one before that we were.
No, you're messing up. You're already messing up the story completely. All right, so this is the third time we're in this festival. The first time we went as characters from the Karate Kid Part 1 in the skeleton outfits.
We had a great time.
Great time. Amazing time. Second time, we went as characters from Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. There's four of us.
We had a great time.
Amazing time. Third time...
There was five of us, because we had a mate as the dog as well.
Yeah, that's right. We had five of us, correct. This time around, we're on the way there, and as you'll probably know, dear listeners, there's a critical mass for a lot of things in life, and festivals, there's nothing more apt than a critical mass with a festival, because they blow up. You look at your Burning Mans, you look at your Coachellas, and once a smaller type micro festival has lost its luster because there's just cops and people swarming all over it, and that wonderful positive energy that was once there that proliferated through it is well and truly dwindled to nothingness. Now, this festival was reaching that particular point, unbeknownst to us. On the way there, we were told quite quickly, we went in a car with a certain young man, a lovely blonde young man called Matthew Stevenson. And Matthew Stevenson got this phone call when we were halfway towards the venue, which is in Camden, and they said, look, there's cops everywhere. And we had quite a lot of substances on us. Almost, I wouldn't say Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas level, but we had quite a lot. We had MDMA, we had pot, we had cocaine. We had a lot of stuff on us. And Matthew Stevenson's genius idea to begin with was he goes, there's dogs everywhere, guys. What we're going to have to do, I've got this great idea. We'll get the weed out and we'll rub the weed all over the car and that'll confuse the dogs and they won't find everything else. And everyone else in the car just looked at him.
I think I was the first. I was like, that is the stupidest idea. I didn't know him, so I didn't know what a good guy was. I just thought he was an absolute idiot. He had like, hair down to the small of his back. It's a pretty loose unit.
Okay, mate, you can't have long hair now. Get a haircut and get a real job.
If you're a man, you shouldn't have hair too long.
Get a fucking haircut. Join the fucking Navy. All right, anyway, so he suggests that we smear the car with weed, and we kibosh that idea very quickly, point out that drawing attention to the vehicle probably isn't the smartest idea.
So he's going to bring in the other guy, our stress head friend, though?
He was pissed off. We had another stress head friend come in called Ben Smoothings. Now, Ben Smoothings, who's a notorious stress head, a real worrywart, but also great at planning and logistics, to be fair. And somebody has to be that guy to some extent sometimes, I think, in a big group of friends.
Great guy, he shits the bed.
Anyway, so moving right along, he comes up and he's like, guys...
Not good in a crisis.
Guys, there's dogs everywhere, all over the entrance. I'm going to go bury some of the drugs near the entrance and come back later. But if I was you guys, I'd think about something maybe like putting it up your bottom or something like that. And we're like, oh, God. And then there's three, grown men looking at each other. We've got Matthew Stevenson, Jono Burns, Dorje Swallow, and we've got substances, but it's not substances not just for each other, but also for many other people in the group. We somehow got lumbered with being essentially mules. Yes. And we realized that we're going to have to stick these substances up our bottoms. It becomes very clear it's the only way forward.
Which I'd never done before. Dorje has done it for years.
I've never done it before. I've never done it before. Don't stitch me up like that. Don't do me like that. Okay, I'd never done it before. So what happens is we acquire some condoms. I think Matthew Stevenson got the condoms.
No, we had to buy them, yeah.
Oh, we bought the condoms. We went to the BP, bought the condoms.
First time you'd ever bought condoms, he says. I just don't like them.
I'm not a big fan of rubbers.
They just don't feel good.
But that's another story. In terms of what women want, it's probably pretty high up there. So maybe we should put it in this episode. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of rubbers, of latex. It don't feel good.
You're allergic. Don't you tell people you're allergic?
I'm allergic. Anyway, so we grab the rubbers. We come up towards the festival. We pull aside with about half a K to go. And this is quite a momentous moment. We stop. We move to the side of a ditch. We pull out respective condoms. We try and figure out who puts what up our bottoms. I think Matthew Stevenson ended up putting
straws, didn't we? Because no one wanted the marijuana.
No one wanted the weed. That's right. We drew straws. Keeping in mind a little bit of a disclosure, we're not youngest men at this stage. I think we're already into our early to mid 30s. Anyway, so we pull out the straws.
Does that mean our asses aren't as tight? Is that why you said that?
No, it's just pathetic grown men drawing straws.
Yeah, you don't want. Yeah, that's what I kept saying at this stage. I thought I was past this stage in life. Like I thought I'd reached the age where I'd never have to do this.
We draw straws. Yeah. I draw the long straw, which means I get stuck with the $50 worth of. I think it's $50 worth of. I think it's $150 worth of weed. Anyway, I've got a big lump of weed that I have to try and ram up there. Jono draws, I think, the medium-sized straw. He gets the MDMA, and Matthew Stevenson gets the LSD, which is much easier. So, Jono, we all put it in our little condoms. We all walk away sheepishly, try not to look at each other in the eye, and pull our pants down and just try and leverage it up there.
We had a pact that would never tell anyone as well, but it's funny that it's come to this. But yeah. Yep.
Okay, so we stick it up there. We say no one's going to talk about it anymore. What's done is done. Drive up. Sure enough, we get through past the cops, okay, past the dogs.
Oh, but as we drove by, there was a guy with his shirt off,
that's right,
on his knees, surrounded by dogs. Yeah, dogs. This is a teeny bopper festival, hipster festival, with his hands above his head, like he was fully getting arrested.
Yeah, it was like Compton. It was like we drove through Compton.
So our stress head mate was in the right.
He was on the money. He often is on the money. To be fair to
there were dogs.
Ben Smoothings. Ben Smoothings is often right, and he was right in this case.
He's a good guy.
Good guy, Ben.
I call him the captain sometimes.
Yeah, the captain Ben Smoothings. Anyway, so we get through this area, and it's by this stage it's getting towards dusk, and we probably, now we look back with the benefit of time, maybe should have got things out of our system straight away. But we thought we had to get the tents up before it got dark. You know what it's like being seasoned campaigners, like many of you are, I'm sure, dear listeners. It started to rain a little. So we get out there, we start hammering the nails. We get nice and low as we're hammering in the nails, and once we finish, I go, okay, John, we better get it out now because
hang on. What? You forgot the fly. You forgot part of the tent, or is that another festival?
Yeah, I think that's
every festival, isn't it? You always forget a big part of the tent.
Well, I don't think it's important to the story.
It is, because that's why we're spending more time. We had to make friends with our next door neighbours and borrow bits.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, there's a bit of the tent missing. We had to bum some of the fly, which goes over the top of it from the people next door, because we didn't have it, and it was raining, and we're freaking out. So we successfully bum, and I use the word bum aptly, the fly from next door, from some lovely girls next door. Yeah. And then we move into the tent, and I said, Jono, we better get it out now. It's important. And so I gradually start. Then I put it quite far up there, and I managed to, because there is supposedly a shelf. They call it shelf. That's why it's called shelf. There's a shelf up there, and I managed to pull it out, and there it is in the condom. There's no fecal matter on it. It looks okay, maybe a bit smelly, but all good. I'm relieved it's over. Meanwhile, I look across after managing to remove the trusty article and see Jono still fumbling around in a slightly heated fashion, looking more and more pale and ashen.
White as a sheet. White as a sheet, George.
Yes, he looks pretty concerned. He's still fumbling down there. And I said, Jono, what's going on? And he said, it's not there. And I said, what?
I don't have it. I said, I don't have it.
I said, what do you mean you don't have it? And he says, it's not there. And I said, well, okay, mate. You've got everyone's MDMA up there. You've got about $500 worth of MDMA up there. It's pretty important you find it. And if you don't find it, it means it's right up in your system, and it could break, and you could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And at that point in time,
I don't think you said that. I don't think you even said that. You said to me, I go, what if it's still up there? And you go, I don't even know what to tell you. You looked angry with me, and I thought I could die.
Yeah, well, I was concerned. No,
you were concerned about
it. It was column A and column B. You maintain it was all column A. I was at first. I went from, it's like the 5 stages of grief. I went from disbelief to anger, and then I gradually came to terms with things. But anyway, so I said, look, considering it could be right up there and it might have broken, you better go and try and shit it out. So Jono rushes off. Jono, I wouldn't say rushes off, gingerly walks off towards the toilets. I'm sitting down there, head in hands, my hands weren't touching my face, but I was pretty concerned. And at that point in time, I have a little...
There'd be shit on your hands. Yeah, did you? Hopefully you washed your hands.
At that point in time, I have a little brainwave that I have a look around outside the tent where we're punching in the pegs.
Should we go to me in the toilet? Let's because this is obviously I'm the only one that knew about what happened here.
Well, sure. I mean, you talked me through that.
Yeah, it's probably the first time I've ever talked about it. So I went to the toilet and I started just trying to squeeze out something because I was worried it was stuck there. And yeah, it was really, really gross. I had like toilet paper, and I was basically just with toilet paper in there, like just trying to take stuff out. And I found quite a lot of stuff that I hadn't found for a long time. It's a remote control up there. It's my MCC membership that I'd lost, a boat license, but alas, no MDMA. And so yeah, I was really worried now because I thought if it's exploded up there, like, I have no idea. Do I die? Do I get really high? And it was raining now, and yeah, I had shit under my fingernails. And
so did you manage to? Did you manage to push any turd out?
I did a little turd. Yeah, I pushed a turd out. And so then I had to like.
How big was a turd? Do you reckon?
It was little. It was quite little.
Bigger than your finger.
It was. You know what? Actually, it was. The good thing was because it was like a wombat poo or a kangaroo poo. Like it was like a perfect little rock. I think the stress made it just like quite dehydrated. So there was nothing sloppy. It was quite.
Okay, that's enough information.
It was like rabbit poo.
Anyway, so at this point in time, while John is going through this fascinating process, I'm outside with my phone torch, just looking on the outskirts of where we're punching in the tent pegs, and funnily enough, there I spot a condom and a little bag of MDMA, and I pick it up very carefully because I know where it's been.
Have a little try. Just take a little taste.
No, I did not have a little taste.
El Jefe gets a little taste of everything.
I was contemplating whether to tell Jono for a bit or to hold off on a bit before I told him, but
that's evil, dude.
I know. I'm not proud of it, but I did contemplate.
But why? Because you thought it was funny, or because you wanted to punish me, or column A, column B?
No, it was probably a little bit of both. But I just think the question mark in my head is how far did you put it?
I didn't put it far exactly because I didn't want.
Yes.
But then the irony is, then I put my hand up there anyway, so I should have just. Because what I had...
You're like Lana Turner. You got your comeuppance, mate.
I have a lot of old underwear. And so I was wearing like a pair of like old... They're briefs. They're meant to be tight, but because they were quite old, they were like a bit
I saw
like
them. They were falling apart. There's no elastic in any of them whatsoever. They were just sagging around your ankles pretty much.
So basically, I just had it, like just touching my bum. And yeah, while we were putting up the tent, it went through my boxer shorts, through my shorts because I was wearing shorts and just fell out. But yeah, I was pretty relieved when you told me. And yeah, I mean, you told me pretty quickly that you weren't going to... I mean, you should have been running you could have saved me another kind of plunge. If you...
I'd only found it right towards the end. But the thing is, the problem for Jono was, after he did come back, it seemed all well, but his fingers literally smelled like shit. So it was very hard for him to interact, I think, at the festival that night. I did give him a fair bit of room when I was interacting with others, just trying to get a little bit of space, because he was a real social deadweight. You don't really want your mate stinking like shit in the hands. And he did. His hands literally smell like shit, like really shitty nail smell.
We didn't have a good festival as a result.
No, and there was another friend of ours who was friends with Ben Smoothings as well, and him and his other friend Dave Tuna and James Mick, we'll call them. Dave Tuna and James Mick found out about it, and they went through the same process of getting... They got lube as well, which is quite interesting. They got lube and condoms, and they did it side by side. They had their own cubicles to put their things up there. And when James Mick arrived...
They did it a different way as well. They had like a decanter, and they stood on their head, and the other one would just hold up, open their legs, and put like the decanter into their bum, and then just put the drug, and it just went straight in. So that was quite a clever way.
It was clever, but unfortunately, the whole process pissed James Mick off so much that he barely talked to anyone for the entire festival. He was so
That was
angry
the first time I met him,
and traumatized by what had occurred. He never. I don't think he ever envisaged himself putting something that size. He drew the short straw like
He
myself.
put a
and
bong
with,
up there, didn't he?
he ended up with the weed. And I guess that one of the reasons my sympathy for Jono once I found it was a little bit less was when I saw how tiny the little bag was that he had to put up there in comparison to the humongous amount of weed that I had to wedge up my own buttocks.
Yeah, well, I suffer more. I didn't really even put it up there. So yeah, the irony is, that then I had to put my hands in there.
I mean, my bottom's never been the same.
You make
Whenever Georgie goes anywhere near that, I start screaming and recalling. It's like I've been to Vietnam or something. I shouldn't, it's like I've been traumatized heavily. I hear like choppers ahead, above, and it's awful. I have PTSD from the weed up my bottom. Yeah, so some people recover better than others.
It wasn't a good party because we were in our mid-30s, and it was very much a 21-year-old party, and we had a big because we had such great successes with our costumes up until that point.
And doctor, this rash that comes and goes, can you tell me what it means? God help me. I was only 33.
You're probably 33, yeah. And we went as French Kiss, which was quite confusing. So we went as the members of Kiss. So we did the cool face paint, but then we wore mime gear. And I wanted to go as something else.
It rained.
What was I pushing for?
I don't know.
I was pushing hard. I wanted to be Vikings. And just I guess I just wanted to be an alpha and just like, rah, and you're like, no. That's too aggressive. But as a result, because it rained and we were 35, we just looked like really scary clowns.
We looked like ghoulish, scary clowns.
With shitty smelling hands. Just literally doing shit mime. And people were just scared of us. Yeah,
so also, I think the drugs that we got weren't the best, and we were scowling a lot. You look at the photos now, and everyone's like grimacing and scowling with this like smeared makeup. It looks like something out of a horror movie.
And no one knew who Kiss was out of that demographic. So yeah, it was a big fail. It was a huge fail. And that's when you famously said to me, which I've taken on board, because you were like, I think I was on cocaine or something, and I had a scowl on my face, and I was like chewing.
It was MDMA.
Like,
you're on MDMA.
Yeah, you don't look like you're having fun, mate. Like you say you're having fun, but you look in pain. And I think about that, when I say no to drugs. Like I really need to want drugs now, because you just don't want to, have a bad come down, and also the face doesn't really lie with that sort of stuff. Are you having a good time if you're like fully grimacing? You're having the best fucking time. Just go home.
I just think you have to be in a positive headspace when you do anything in life, but especially when you socialise. When you're socialising, you want to be positive. Mm-hmm. If you're not positive, hey, listeners out there, if you're not in a good frame of mind, fuck off. Don't go outside. No one wants to see you. And you know what? This goes for people that are serving people in restaurants and stuff like that. If you don't like your job, then just don't do it. Do something else, because I don't understand why I cop so much chewed from people that clearly hate what they're doing. Just do something else.
Well, come on, mate. It's not very empathetic.
Well, I mean, it's how hard is it to just be a little bit positive towards another person?
It's not.
It's really not that hard. It costs you nothing.
Real segue, mate. But that was a cracking full disclosure. That was good. Yeah, we'll have a few ones that we were in together, but that was one we were really in together.
And that was let's not go too far. I wasn't in it. We weren't quite in. Well, we were in it simultaneously. I wouldn't say we're in it together, because otherwise I would have been ramming it up your bottom and you been ramming it up mine. That would have been in it together.
Like James Mick and David Tuna.
Before we wrap up, Jono, any final words on what you think women really want from the opposite sex?
Well, I think they want what everyone wants. I think they want to be understood. They want to be respected. They want to be valued. They want to have fun, as Cyndi Lauper said. As Mel Gibson said, they want chocolates. That's what he said in the special features of what women want. But I think it's I think they want a place for themselves. I don't know. No, mate, I don't know. I think they want what we all want.
Okay, yeah, that's not bad. I'll counter with mine before we finish up. I think in a world which has been subjected so heavily to the male gaze in every sense through
They are
publications,
taking over, aren't they? Especially in Sydney. Very homosexual.
through publications, through
The
art.
female gaze.
Are you going to let me do this, or are you going to talk me? You're going to talk over my chance? I didn't say a single thing while you were doing yours. All right, all right. In a world which for a long time
dominated by homosexual men.
you're not letting me do it. All right.
So,
If you look through art, if you look through theatre, if you look through film, if you look through literature, the male gaze is prevalent, always has been. And that means females have been subjected to objectification on a very large level. They've been
by Georgie Swallow.
No. They've been pigeonholed. They've been told who they are, what they should be, what is allowed and what isn't allowed, what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable. And I personally think that females now probably have had, just about enough of it. I think the idea that gender is fluid, I mean, we've spoken about what we want today, but some people say that the idea of gender full stop is outdated. As Jono kind of was getting at, it's more about people. We hear about people in terms of sexuality saying, I'm not attracted to gender, I'm attracted to people. I think, the more we can probably rid ourselves of this concept that someone's from Mars and someone is from Venus, the better. I think when it comes down to it, if you respect the other person, if you genuinely enjoy their company and don't want anything else but their company, then you'll probably find yourself spending more time with them. And when that happens, you'll find yourself probably slowly either forging a friendship or even a family member or a loved one. And when you have those things happening, they can only happen when you truly enjoy someone's company for who they are and for what they are, without thinking about them as an object, without thinking about them as another organism or another animal. It's just another human being. If you think of it as, I wouldn't say a version of yourself, but when it comes down to it, if you can see that there's someone else there who has their own feelings and who has their own thought patterns, which are there, and if you can interact with those, then you've got a true chance of actually becoming close to another human being. In my mind, there is nothing more rewarding and nothing more special than becoming close to other human beings.
Beautifully done, mate. And really concise as well.
On that note, Jono, would you want to wrap us up with the What Women Want episode?
This has been What Women Want. I apologise to our one female listener.
We do realise, sorry to interrupt, we do realise how hilarious it is for men to be telling women what they want.
It's been great. It's been a good full disclosure. We had Dorje's first film review, which is, I look forward to more of those. And next week, Dorje is going to be in Melbourne. We're going to go to a huge 40th, so we'll be debriefing that. We might try and drag into some comedy as well. And it'll be interesting to see what his take on Melbourne is after I had a very positive time in Sydney last week. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah. Coming to you every week from Sydney and Melbourne. It's Full Disclosure, the Jono and Dorje podcast. Jono and Dorje, full disclosure in the raw. Jono and Dorje, full disclosure, no holds barred.